As we look forward to the Biden-Trump debates, one thing is clear. This is going to be a complete clown show. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Chris Martinson of Peak Prosperity. I don't normally comment on political things because I pox in both houses. I'm a uniparty kind of nut guy. I don't like the whole thing. I don't really believe we're adequately represented, except by a very small handful of people in Congress who are still the good people, and also the Senate. But literally one hand, I can count them up. So what's going on here? Look at this. This is absolutely, I think, one of the more astonishing moments in journalism. And I will comment on journalism because I'm all about the facts. I'm all about being an information scout. And I do value, if not the truth, then at least not being full of BS all the time. Let's take a look at this. Maybe you caught this. This is pretty astonishing. We won't have to listen to the whole thing, just about the first 20 seconds.
So it takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently, frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump.
Wow. What an absolute freak out that we just saw there. This is an absolute Karen moment here that just couldn't manage anything against her prevailing orthodoxy. That's where we are, people. We have two separate camps now. There are people who want to bring facts and people who can't manage the facts. So it's actually a fact that Jake Tapper, who they think is going to be moderating this thing, has a known and profound bias. But worse, he was water carrier for a completely fictitious narrative that's been proven to be fictitious. And that's the Russian collusion narrative and all of that in the Steele dossier. Absolute, complete, fraudulent, 100%. And of course, people knew it for years and years and years. And it finally took, a 3-year Mueller investigation to determine the same? It really didn't. It was obviously junk from the very beginning. And has there been an appropriate mea culpa for that? By the way, a good apology that might get Jake Tapper and CNN back in partially towards good graces. You have to say you're sorry. And a sorry has 3 parts, right? 1, you say you're sorry and you acknowledge the harm that you caused. 2, you have to atone for the harm that you actually caused. And 3, you have to explain what steps you've taken to assure that this will not happen again. Otherwise, it's empty words. It's an empty sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Doesn't cut it. You need all 3 parts. CNN is nowhere near that. So that's pretty astonishing. Let's go here is a reminder that the debate moderator is also going to be Dana Bash's husband, Jeremy Bash. He was one of the 51 so-called intelligence community members who signed the infamous Hunter Biden hoax letter. He should be immediately and permanently disqualified from any and all things that look like or sound like providing us with news. Listen on this. This is astonishing.
Like Russian intelligence. This walks like Russian intelligence. This talks like Russian intelligence. This effort by Rudy Giuliani and the New York Post and Steve Bannon to cook up supposed dirt on Joe Biden looks like a classic Russian playbook disinformation campaign. That assessment, by the way, is not my assessment. That's the assessment of the Trump intelligence community leadership, who in August of this year put out a statement saying that.
Okay, so this guy worked for the CIA, also worked for Defense Department. Obviously, he's in a position to know better and did know better, but of course chose to go forward with an obvious and known lie. And naturally, of course, that makes him the right person for CNN to consider. So CNN has done nothing about those 51 intelligence community members who signed that infamous Hunter Biden hoax letter when they should all be permanently disbarred from anything around public life before. These are the sociopaths, psychopaths, and cluster B narcissistic personality disorder types who weasel their way up to the top of the swamp and then just sort of infest it for a period of time. And we all have to pretend like it's okay. It's not okay. It is not okay. When somebody lies to you comprehensively, you should take that under advisement, for anything you might consider for them in the future. Obviously, duh, that's just part of being an ordinary, normal adult, right? As Anja Mayalu said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Saves a lot of trouble downstream. This guy's already shown the whole world who he is, and CNN has said, you're our kind of guy, which makes CNN what? Obviously, it's just a propaganda outlet for regime media. It's pretty bad. So he was one of the 51 spies, so-called spies, who signed on to that letter saying, oh, this laptop has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation, when the FBI had it in their possession since 2019 and clearly knew that it was anything but disinformation. All right. So that's just sort of the state of the beast at this point in time. That's where we're at. Carrying on. This is a real video by Nickelodeon aimed at toddlers and preschoolers called, creepily enough, On the Inside. I just can't even. This is not even remotely appropriate. Obviously, this was, I don't even, you know what? I think this person captured it well. Jake Fig said, you might as well go ahead and pronounce the L in salmon. Nothing matters anymore. Selman. That just captures the inanity of all of this about as well as we could. But you know what? Something, we are seeing quite the blow up now, and we're seeing a huge amount of thrashing about as the B team over here, Team Woke, their narrative is breaking down. So here we see Michael J. Stern saying, ouch, someone has Elon Musk's number and is calling it out loudly, suggesting that what Jan LeCun said here is correct and accurate, who wrote, you know what can actually be the downfall of Western civilization? People who dismiss facts, disparage scientists, and the journalists, side with aspiring dictators, disseminate batshit crazy conspiracy theories, and buy themselves a medium to amplify them. So Jan LeCun happens to be director of AI for Facebook. So a little bit of sour grapes from a competing social media company, possibly. Or possibly Jan LeCun is just yet another one of the deluded people out there who actually just projects their own worst faults onto, they know their own worst faults. They know that they are not following science or facts or, engaging in actual journalism or doing anything to help anything other than the downfall of Western civilization, which you would note by things like this when you promote those to prominence, right? Or as we find out that unsealed court documents just showed that Admiral Rachel LaVine pressured so-called WPATH, which was the working group on transgenderism, to remove age guidelines from the latest standards of care. Ooh, ouch. Really? Nope. Wouldn't want any age guidelines in there because, why would you stop an underage minor from making a life-altering permanent decision about their body when they're not even old enough to vote, go to war, or have a credit card or drink? I mean, obviously, we don't trust people below a certain age with renting cars. But of course, if you want to completely mutilate yourself, that's fine. So this is really, really awful. And of course, Jan LeCun is just channeling that and projecting that on to other people because that's how these people roll. That's who they are. If they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all, right? So let's talk about this very quickly. Who's dismissing facts, right? We knew it was a fact that COVID clearly could have had a non-biological origin, that it could have come from a lab. Facebook was busy blocking that. We knew it was a fact that women were having dysmenorrhea. They were having dysregulation of their periods and menstrual cycles. And it's Facebook that blocked that and shut down the groups. There were groups of people trying to get together and talk about their personal felt experiences of being vaccine injured. And it was YouTube that was shutting all of that down. And here Jan LeCun is worried about Elon having opened up the conversation to allow a wider range of conversation. Says, oh, this could actually be the downfall of Western civilization. Ooh, hyperbolic much, Jan? What a turd. I mean, this is just absolutely unbelievable. And I'm really tired of it. I am tired of people like this doing all of these things, right? You know, side with aspiring dictators. Well, Jan, I don't know. It kind of sounds like I might be projecting, but I'm thinking you're siding with Biden here, who has weaponized the Department of Justice and doing things that the whole rest of the world, in case you hadn't noticed, is looking inside the United States going, dude, what are you guys up to? You look like a banana republic over there, which is giving a bad name to banana republics. All right. So carrying on with that, the other big news, of course, is that Tulsi Gabbard writing here, this should never have happened, but finally Julian Assange is free and he gets on a plane here. And of course he had to fly a special plane because the authorities wouldn't let them get on a regular plane. And it's going to cost him $500,000 to get out of there. But you know what? I would have gotten the heck out of Dodge too. And he's flying back to Australia. And I presume he will be greeted there like a hero by a lot of folks. Not everybody sees it that way. Of course, there are people who think that war crimes ought to be covered up and remain covered up and that you should be in trouble for daring to expose those. But I will tell you, you know who really hated this guy? And this makes me very suspicious. Well, it turns out in 2010, Hillary Clinton's State Department was getting pressure from President Obama and his White House inner circle, as well as heads of state internationally, to try and cut off Assange's delivery of the cables. And that if that effort failed, then to forge a strategy to minimize the administration's public embarrassment. Don't embarrass the state over the contents of the cables. Hence Clinton's early morning November meeting of state's top brass who floated various proposals to stop, slow, or spin the WikiLeaks contamination. That's how they saw it. That is when a frustrated Clinton, sources said, at some point blurted out a controversial query. Can't we just drone this guy? Clinton openly inquired, offering a simple remedy to silence Assange and smother WikiLeaks via a planned military drone strike, according to State Department sources. Yeah, here's this journalist guy asking inconvenient questions. Can't we just kill him? Right? And then ye shall know them by their words and actions. And then we have Mike Pence here writing, Julian Assange endangered the lives of our troops in a time of war and should have been prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The Biden administration's plea deal with Assange is a miscarriage of justice and dishonors the service and sacrifice of the men and women of our That's the way when somebody just starts warbling on like a turkey, I go It's just noise at that point. Listen, Mr. Pence, you know the way that you honor the men and women of this fine country is by not sending them off to die in a war based on lies. Remember? I'm old enough to remember this, and you should be too, Mr. Pence. The Second Iraq War was about weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, that did not exist. And I knew they didn't exist, and everybody knew they didn't exist, but everybody carried forward with this fiction put out by the Office of Special Plans, and that was Rumsfeld and Feith and Pearl and all those cast of characters. Maybe you were in that. Maybe you know that there's some really embarrassing stuff that Julian says. You know what you sound like here, Mr. Pence? You sound guilty. That's what you sound guilty. But the way that we honor our men and women is we do not ask them to go sacrifice themselves in some stupid war that nobody can articulate why it started or when it's going to end, except the military industrial contractors get stinking rich off of the whole thing. That's the game. That's been the game as long as I've been alive. Oh no, we got out of Afghanistan. Yay! Just in time for the Iraq-Ukrainian thing to fire up. And if that dies down a little bit, it'll be Syria again or whatever. We're all tired of this, and nobody wants to die for that. That's how you honor people in this country, Mr. Pence, is you don't send them to go off and die in a pointless war. And for sure, it's a really bad look to say, maybe we should drone or off or otherwise silence journalists who ask questions that make us over here in our power structure a little uncomfortable, right? Because at the end of the day, you know what it was? It was just embarrassing. That's it. WikiLeaks embarrassed powerful people, and for that, people have to be punished. Apparently. That's not democracy. That's not a republic. That has nothing to do with American values. And for sure, you can't wrap the flag of servicemen and women around your shoulders and say that you're just trying to defend their honor. It's a bad look. And of course, I think Gunther Eagleman captured it pretty well. He said, you should sit this one out. traitor. I think he should. I agree with that. Now, lots of other things are going on that we have to talk about. I'm going to talk about these back at Peak Prosperity with my subscribers. This is part of my scouting report. I have a lot more to cover, and let's go there. Everybody else, thank you so much for listening. Please, let's see what happens on this great Trump-Biden debate. I can't wait. Anyway, enjoy this. See you then. We'll be talking about all of it. Until then, bye-bye.